Moving on to another big story today, a new investigation has asked a bunch of prominent male business leaders to sound off on the importance of improving work opportunities for women. And their opinions might surprise you.
Women of Australia, your country has a problem with you. Well, at least that's what some of the nation's top corporate heavies are saying, who in this instance happen to be all men. But don't blow your stack just yet. This frank assessment is part of a warts-and-all look into why the majority of our workforce's most senior people come from just 49% of the population. So who better to ask why than the blokes who hold the nation's top jobs?
We do know that embracing gender diversity allows us to have better decision-making, better risk identification, better outcomes across the board.
But why is it so hard to change?
I think it's deeply cultural, partly the Australian culture, the little bit of the macho Australian male dominance. Now, that is not reality.
There's a resistance to increased competition, so when you bring more and more talented people into the field, it becomes harder to secure advantage or position for yourself.
It seems that there's a good understanding of the problem, but what about a solution?
We're setting targets. My skin's in the game because I've set the targets. So if we don't achieve them, then I'm judged either as a success or a failure.
And the only way to get the action is for it to start at the top end in the organisation.
While it's good to hear our male leaders talk about the issue head-on, it doesn't change one big fact. Australia has one of the highest rates of female education in the world, but only an average rate of educated women participating in the workforce. In other words, we're getting a poor return on the multi-billion-dollar investment we make in female education every year. Even if you ignore the huge social inequality it creates, the whole situation reeks of bad business.
Lark Rima is from Westpac and has spent 3 decades empowering women in business. Lark, it seems that everyone agrees we need more women in top jobs, so why is it taking so long to happen?
Well, I think it's a lot about, there's a lot of talk about it, and has been for the last few years a lot more talk about it. And I think there's organisations out there that are doing great things, so let's see what they're doing and talk about that and talk about the examples.
There's part of the problem here that we can change workplace culture, we can change parenting, so perhaps men do, the parenting as much as women do the parenting, but we can't change the fact that babies only come out of women.
Carrie, that's a good point. I'm a baby boomer, and I have to say I want my girls to feel like they've got equal opportunity of what men have, and I want them to have their kids. We're a small country. We need more people to have their children, and we need more women to feel like they can work in all organisations and really give back to the community.
I'm just playing devil's advocate. This is business. This is capitalism. The argument in capitalism is if you have a competitive advantage, you should exploit that to your benefit. That's how business works.
Exactly.
But wouldn't a lot of people argue, I'll tell you what, a single man has the most competitive advantage over anyone with a family, anyone that chooses to have a life outside work, and within the capitalist structure, they're naturally going to get further. I'm playing devil's advocate. That's not how I think it should work. It's not how I think it should work. But if it's businesses making these decisions, isn't their whole rationale whatever's good for business?
So, Charlie, think about the female economy. It's the largest growing economy worldwide. So there are more women on this planet than men, and women today are choosing to be highly educated, have a lot more say. They want to be at the table and make those decisions. So if you've got a diverse workforce, if you've also got a bigger population of women, if you ignore this part of your economy, then you're going to be left behind. So what you say is true. I think what it is for men is it's easier for them at the moment. We need to make it just as easy for women, and imagine how this economy and how Australia would be if we did that.
So, what are the practical things you're suggesting? I mean, you work in an organisation where there are many women high up. What are some of the day-to-day practical things that have enabled those women to carry on and do those kind of roles? Well,
first of all, you have to have support from the top. And so at Westpac, we've done that. We've got a CEO who said she wanted to have 40% of women in the leadership team be women within the organisation. We reached that 40% 2 years ahead of time. We're now looking at having 50-50 of our workforce in leadership positions by 2017. So women have to play a strong part in this as well. They have to take accountability for their careers and really make sure they push themselves and believe in themselves and be bold and go for those jobs instead of thinking, oh, maybe I can't do that job. Really push themselves.
Lark, thank you very much for your thoughts tonight. Fascinating chat.
Thanks, everyone.
There we go. Well, one of the world's most powerful women is Beyonce.